Hey, yo, what's good, everyone? Twisted here with Open Sorcery, and today I am joined by my fellow lovely co-host Devi here, and for a topic that I think that she definitely can go ahead and provide quite a bit of very good insight on, as always, but particularly with this one, and that is the notion of emptying your cup, and with that sort of phrasing, right? Generally speaking, it is the notion of you have to go ahead and, you know, say that you in of yourself are a cup and you are full of metaphorical water, right? And this metaphorical water is the sort of, it fills you up and you can have water, you can have any sort of other liquid in there, but all in all, right, you have to be wary of what that particular type of liquid is and whether it's serving you or not. And, you know, at times you have to relinquish the contents of that cup because it may be murky, dirty water. It may be some sort of, not good soda or anything, or maybe some sort of stale drink. Like, maybe you went ahead and left the milk out for too damn long or anything like that. But to get more so into the actual nature of it, Devi, please go ahead and share your thoughts.
So with cups, I will go back to, I have said this many, many times on the channel, in that one of the symbols that I use for my practice is the cups. And every time I see the Ace of Cups, like in tarot, I know that that is a personal symbol for me that I am going in the correct direction. And the way that I have always seen people who nurture, people who heal, people who are imbued with the ability or the gift or the curse, however you want to phrase it, to assist others. We are like cups that have like little spouts on them, and we get to fill other people up because their cup ran empty. Their stuff was dirty, so we had to clean them out, but we got to fill them back up again. And so I've always said, like, I gotta find my cups because we gotta heal the healers. We gotta make sure that everybody is all good, because without them, without the ones that actually fill people back up with that goodness and that possibility, then everybody and everything stagnates. You can't have growth if you don't have anything in there, if you don't have energy to move forward.
Oh, yes. And that is the thing with the business of being, going ahead and helping people to not only like fill them back up, but at times a lot of it is you're emptying their cups for them when it's filled to the brim of the not so good metaphorical liquid
Oh,
and all of
absolutely.
that. What you want to see is like black muck or dirty water. Um, once again the stale milk that has gone ahead and gone past an expiration date, or maybe just left it out of the fridge for too long. All in all, just like sometimes you have to be the ones to help empty them before you can help refill them up, or they do so on their own. It's not completely static, but obviously, yes, being the role of the healer in this case. So, and not just that sort of two-person dynamic, but for someone doing it for themselves and all of that sort of thing. Going ahead and actually taking on that responsibility for yourself on a day-to-day basis. And of course, getting assistance is all good, but you have to learn to become more so self-reliant. And not that you don't need nobody. In that sense, you just go ahead and you stave off any sort of assistance that can be given to you. But in the sense of, hey, look, sometimes I can take care of it myself. Sometimes I need a helping hand and all of that. But in having discussed the general phrasing, well, the general notion of emptying your cup, um, I believe it comes more so from a Chinese sort of proverb or some sort of Asian sort of proverb. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and open up a link from learnreligions.com, which I think is a very good resource of summarizing and culminating together particular concepts. but y'all go ahead and recite, uh, you know, the gist of it and all that before we move on. Empty your cup is an old Chinese Chan or Zen saying that occasionally pops up in Western popular entertainment. Empty your cup often is attributed to a famous conversation between the scholar Tokusan, also called Tishan Kuanshian, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but I am by no means any native Chinese speaker, what have you, and they were around from 782 to 865. I'm unsure whether that is BC or AD, but I actually know it's forward moving numbers, so it's actually AD. Okay. And Zen Master Ryutan, Lung Tian Chongxin or Longtan Chongxin, who lived from 760 to 840. So here we go. Scholar Tokusan, who was full of knowledge and opinions about the Dharma, which, for those who are unaware, is the Hindu and Buddhist pathway of righteousness, and came to Ryutan and asked about Zen. At one point, Ryutan refilled his guest's teacup, but did not stop pouring when the cup was full. He spilled out and ran over a table. "Stop, the cup is full," said Tokusan. "Exactly," said Master Ryutan. "You're like this cup, you're full of ideas. You come and ask for teaching, but your cup is full. I can't put anything in. Before I can teach you, you'll have to empty your cup. This is harder than you might realize. By the time we reach adulthood, we are so full of information that we don't even notice it's there. We might consider ourselves to be open minded, but in fact, everything we learn is filtered through many assumptions and then classified to fit into the knowledge we already possess." So at present, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that for the article. I'll have a link in the description if you want to read the rest of it. It's honestly not all too long. I already read half of it. Um, and also, I'm going to go ahead and that particular Zen Koan, even though it's pretty much covered in that what I just read, I'm also going to have a link to that individually as well for those who want to have a copy of it. In that website also has a bevy of other Zen Koans as well for you to go ahead and look over. But yes, so generally speaking, in order for you to go ahead and receive newness, receive new ideas, concepts. It's not just an emotional standpoint, as water is representative of. It is also new ideas, new manners of thinking, perspectives, all of this. So it's not just like, oh, I feel like crap, I feel like shit, but it's also the mental focus, the mental framework, the mental ability or recognition, the clarity, what have you, and all of that. But yes, what are your thoughts?
No, I like that one. Because definitely as you're going into new practices, as you are exploring things, coming in with a set of ideas already is going to limit you greatly. So you have to come in completely open minded because you are learning something brand new, not going in and being like, okay, I'm coming at this. I've already mastered this. So this will be a piece of cake. Come at it like it's brand new because guess what? If you come in with the preconceptions, you're going to miss so much. So much. There is nuances to learning new things. There is nuances to starting over as a beginner that you don't get whenever you are a quote master or even a journeyman or an apprentice or anything like that. Once you are like a novice, there are so many lessons that are available to you versus pigeonholing yourself into a higher category.
Yes, yes. So coming into things with a fresh frame of mind is definitely very helpful, whether it's spiritual, occult, esoteric, magical shit, or just any situation in life, whether it be a sort of connection or a new opportunity or traveling or what have you, right?
Hmm.
Um, but yes. Now, in terms of the how does one go ahead and empty that cup, right? And all of that. There's another way to also look at it. If you don't necessarily like the fluid, the water analogy, There's also a Zen Koan. It is called the Stone Mind, and I'll go ahead and recite that. So kind of like if you feel of it as like if it's not necessarily dirty water, and that analogy, that sort of frame of mind, that visualization don't work for you, then you can think about it as a very heavy, cumbersome rock or stone. So here we go. Hogen or Hojen, a Chinese Zen master, lived alone in a small temple in the country. One day, four traveling monks appeared and asked if they might make a fire in his yard to warm themselves. While they were building the fire, Hogen heard them arguing about subjectivity and objectivity. He joined them and said, "There is a big stone. Do you consider it to be inside or outside your mind?" One of the monks replied, "From the Buddhist viewpoint, everything is an objectification of mind. So I would say that the stone is inside my mind." "Your head must feel very heavy," observed Hogen, "if you were carrying around a stone like that in your mind." So the question goes ahead and is used for bearing, whether it's you having a particular perspective or conceived notion or maybe worry about a situation or whatever the case may be. How heavy is the stones in your mind? How heavy is it that you are going ahead and the intrusive thoughts that you carry are weighing down upon you? So before you can empty it, of course, you have to assess what it is. So you can then, you know, unburden it, get rid of that additional weight. And please, Debbie, go ahead and chime in with what you think in relation to that.
So that one I actually really appreciate in how that is put. And I do agree with your assessment phase. And I do this all the time with clients, right? And we do this with our friends even. And I have made a allegory to like surgeons because we're going in and we're finding the spot that hurts, that heavy spot. You might not be able to see it from the outside, but on the inside you feel it, or whenever you touch that spot, it hurts. And so we're going in and we're trying to find out, okay, what is it? What got lodged in you so long ago that has caused this pain, this swelling, this issue to emerge now, to become a problem now? How has it poisoned you, and how can we drain the poison? Just like a snake bite or a, like if we're thinking like gross surgical things, right? It's got to be drained. You have to take everything out of it like an abscess before you can actually get to scraping it out and healing it. How are you going
Oh yes,
to how are you going to heal in terms of the body if the splinter is still under the skin?
oh yes. Going ahead and then, going ahead and expunging all of that gunk, all that sort of muck, that pus, if we're going to use the analogy of an abscess or a cyst and all that, especially considering you and of yourself have said that you very much enjoy those pimple popping videos
Oh, thanks.
and
Don't
all of
out me like that. Damn.
that. Well, come on now, like, even in that sort of sense, like, that's a pretty good visualization. Gross for some, but accurate.
It is accurate and it's expression because it doesn't matter how it looks on the outside. It could be burrowing a hole on the inside. It could be causing more problems than you ever thought on the inside. Just because a person, like if we take it in terms of even disability, somebody can look perfectly fine, but there are invisible illnesses. There is invisible things wrong with people that you might not know until you had a conversation with them, right? So, just like that, you might not know that this thing is poisoning you underneath. You feel all the pressure, you feel all the stress, you feel all the worry, and it's like everything is a catastrophe. Everything is so magnified and enhanced and worrisome. But once you actually take that pressure off, expunge everything out, express it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm lighter than a goddamn feather.
Oh, yes. Now, something you mentioned in terms of, people in the role of them being healers, some being more so naturally attuned and all of that for it, which includes most definitely you, um, and being a natural empath, right?
Hmm.
You could say that empaths are, natural therapists, paid or unpaid, but also emotional sponges and all that sort of thing, right? So you're taking
Yes.
out, so if someone is unable to empty their cup themselves and or refilling the cup, right?
Hmm.
Then you go ahead and you can help facilitate that process, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But yes, and you can talk about that in general. Um, but also, it can take a toll on you as well. Add to
Hmm.
your own cup that needs to be going ahead and, released and filtered and changed and all of that sort of thing. Adding more stones to your mind that you need to go ahead and unburden, unpack.
Oh, absolutely. And with that, if we're going back to like the water aspect, right? So, say I'm helping somebody and they are dealing with more traumatic feelings, they are dealing with the more negative and everything like that. Water is permeable and it's changeable. You can change it into coffee, you can change it into tea, you can boil it, you can steam it, like whatever. Water is so transformative, right? So think, if I'm not careful with how I interact with them and understanding where they're coming from, I literally am changing the contents of my water and poisoning it, poisoning the well with their stuff. So, in the process of emptying other people, this is where I believe healers need healers so that, we clarify each other. We're constantly in the process of clarifying each other's emotional waters. Um, because as an empath, the moment that you are in contact with somebody else, right? You make that connection, and it's all of a sudden like, bam, you are in their waters. You are feeling their waters as if they're your own. And so that can be hugely disorienting, right? Because it's not that, oh, hey, I'm going up to this person. I recognize immediately that it's not my feelings. Sometimes you have to sit with it for a second. It's like, hold up, that's not from me. That's not mine, because it will disguise itself as yours and it will pull up memories associated with it. And so, just like you said, like it'll pull up stones and put them in your own mind. Sometimes it'll unbury, like just like I said with the surgical allegory, right? It'll sometimes
Yes.
start expressing our own issues that are very similar. And so it'll be confusing because it's like an intermix of, there are my feelings here, which I might have processed mostly, and all of a sudden they're coming at me like they're brand new, and somebody else's emotions. And so creating that separation is incredibly difficult, and making sure that I'm not getting my well poisoned is incredibly difficult. But watching somebody get cleansed, watching their essence go from this black, smoky, disgusting mess to just running clear, and feeling them take that huge, deep breath afterwards of just like, oh my God, I feel like I can breathe again. That is hugely rewarding. And like you said, both paid or unpaid kind of therapists. Like, I've done both, I do both. Like, it is what it is.
Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and borrow a phrase that you go ahead and say rather often, to me, to other people that we know, and all of that is for the notion of taking care of yourself before taking care of others, right? You have stated many a time that you can't pour from an empty cup. So that sense of like, you have to empty your own cup and then refill it in order to go ahead and help, you know, help another person and all that sort of thing. You have to be readily equipped in of yourself. So please, by all means, go ahead and expound upon that.
Oh, absolutely. So if you are having issues with, everyone's coming to you for, readings or anything of the nature, and you're tired or they're asking so much of you. It doesn't necessarily have to be of a spiritual nature. It can be even at work where people are asking more and more and more and more and more, and it just keeps piling on and just, oh my gosh, it just doesn't stop. You have to take a break eventually. And yeah, I say this a lot because I see people running themselves completely and totally ragged because I have done the same motherfucking thing. I still do the same motherfucking thing, and I have to catch myself in that cycle of, oh, I'm pushing too far. I'm pushing myself too far, and I might need to spend like a week doing nothing. Doing nothing but self care. And it feels selfish at times because, of course, we want to help other people and we want to be of assistance. And it's like, oh my gosh, you want me to help you? That's great. Awesome. Cool. I would love to do that. But I have to recognize that I have only so much capacity. I only have so much energy. I only have what I can to help somebody else. And if their cup has run empty and they're needing me to fill them back up, if I've got 3 drops left, I need to keep that for myself. You see, as a healer, as somebody who is overflowing and has that capacity to assist somebody else in their healing process, it is so important for your cup to be constantly overflowing and to fill other people from the overflow instead of filling them from what's inside your cup. Because that overflow is for them and it's beautiful, and that balance is wonderful. But what's inside of your cup is yours because you have to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't hold anything if you're a broken vessel. So I'm actually going to pull
Oh
up a
yes,
Bible verse, and I love this one.
yes.
It's Matthew 7, verse 3-5. So let's see. In his great Sermon on the Mount, Jesus Christ sometimes employed a literary tool known as hyperbole to make a point. In one such example, Jesus asked, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye. Then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." We can't help other people until we remove the really big obstacles for ourselves. It's not selfish, it's practical.
Yes. Hallelujah. But, you know, um, not only going ahead and utilizing that as an example, but you can say another example of an advisory towards this sort of thing of self attention, self care before assisting others. For those who have gone ahead and flown on an airplane before, right? I'm sure you have gone ahead and heard or seen the safety videos that precede every single flight in case you might go ahead and go downward, or you might go ahead and have to have an early landing or a potential crash or whatever. But it is the advisory of putting your own oxygen mask on in the plane before you go ahead and you assist others, even children. Like, sure, like as a parent or someone who may be near a child, like, hey, look, the child takes priority. Now you got to save yourself before you can save that kid, because you're not going to be any help to anyone if you're like losing consciousness and passing out while you're trying to go ahead and put the oxygen mask on them, what have you. And just as everyone else is freaked out on the plane, adults, because they have more so of a sense of, oh crap, we could go ahead and die. The kids, they may not necessarily know as much potentially, but they're still going to need that comfort. They're still going to need that steady guiding hand from the adult to get them through the experience and all of that. So yes, going ahead and putting your oxygen mask on for helping others. That is another link that I will go ahead and put in the description that will go ahead and expound upon this a little bit more so, from Donna Schildler, or Schilder, I believe. Um, but yes, how do you happen to remember those videos when you happen to have taken plane rides and all that sort of thing?
Yes, I very much remember that on, plane rides to Tennessee or Florida or whatnot. Yes, very much so.
Not only that, but the pamphlets that are like,
Oh my
in
gosh, the pamphlets.
the.
They always made me laugh because they look so ridiculous.
Okay, what was the ridiculous about it? Take a small, quick aside from general topic.
Well, a small quick aside from the general topic, like the stick figures that they use, like the bulky stick figures, they look awkward. And then I've seen some of them where like instead of it looking like limbs, it looks like a penis. Um like it just doesn't look right. It's just like, "Oh, um that got approved." How? How? Um
Yes.
wow.
Oh, yes. But a little more so back on track. This is actually something that I know you're definitely very well familiar with. You've spoken about it previously on channel and just a lot in general. But the whole nature of the philosophy of Wabi-Sabi and the practice of fixing broken bowls or cups or any sort of pottery with gold. And please expound upon that a bit more.
So, just like I was saying about like if you got a broken cup, you can't hold anything. But guess what the cracks do? They highlight your journey, just like stretch marks on a mom. They highlight the fact that your body held life. You created life, right? So, in that, it's highlighting the fact that you've been through something and you are making a statement with it that is not one of shame, but one of pride, one of wearing your badge of honor, honoring your story without completely making it about that, right? Because it still serves a purpose. The bowl is still being used for food, the cup is still being used for drink, but you are highlighting the story of that bowl or that cup. And it makes it more beautiful. So think of it just like with people. We know that in terms of awakenings or anything like that, or people that are the most compassionate, people that are honestly some of the most beautiful hearts that you will ever meet, they have some traumatic stories. They have some negative experiences, but they find that kindness within them, that beauty within them to be able to share that beauty with the world, even though they might not call themselves beautiful. They might not say that they are beautiful, but everything in them, like you can see it visually. It may not be whole, like appealing, but when you talk to them, you're calm. They feel like they make everything right with the world. I love the people that honestly like embody Wabi Sabi because those are the people that when I talk to them, I feel refreshed. And I hope they leave me feeling the same way because it feels like a beautiful exchange of let me take your burden, let me take in your beautiful energy, and here is mine in exchange. That way we can recycle and alchemize for each other in a sense. But with cups, if we're using that as like the metaphor for the person, just like I said, you can't pour from an empty cup and you can't hold anything in a broken vessel. So if you are constantly sitting there and just kind of like sawing away at the bits and you remain cracked, you can't help anybody if you sit in that. But if you learn from your story, you put yourself back together, and then you recognize how much of a warrior you had to put yourself back together and then highlight your story in a beautiful way, highlight your journey in a beautiful way, then you are able to show everybody that, hey, you can go through hard things and still be a beautiful person, rather than you can go through hard things and be a dick.
Oh, yes. Yes. And, in that sort of sense, the gold that is glittering And okay, now there's the phrase all that glitters isn't going to be gold, but in that sort of sense, going ahead and using what you've gone through, your previous weaknesses as strengths, that is actually like purified gold. That is very much going ahead and, you know, that goes ahead and helps, aside from the water and even the stone analogies, let's bring more so to fire, letting your inner flame, your inner light shine outward and all of that.
Absolutely.
Um, yes. Now, and we've discussed the nature, the concept of emptying your cup so far, but you know, we've we have yet to actually talk about what are some ways to help unburden your mind or empty your cup or what have you, or fix your bowl even, to use that analogy from the Wabi-Sabi philosophy. So I have a list here, but um, hard discussions is at the top of it, right? So hard discussions with friends, with partners, with whomever it is in your life that you need to express things towards, right? And those hard discussions, can just be like heart to hearts and being like, oh, yes, I need to get this off my own chest to tell you in this relation to a dynamic or just venting and all of that, of like, oh, this happened in another instance and all that sort of thing. And you can say that therapy falls much into the line of hard discussions when done properly. Not the only sort of therapy, but therapy in general. What say you in relation to this?
Oh, absolutely. Because words have power, right? We've discussed that quite a bit. Words have power. And the moment that you're able to actually verbalize what's been on your mind, to actually put it out into the world and recognize it as, hey, this is a crack for me. This is something that affected me in this way. You are taking that, and in recognizing it, you are taking the power away from it. It's almost like I'm trying to remember the phrase, um, something something hides in silence. I forget what the phrase is, but I know the feeling around it. But um, or hope dies in silence, something like that. Um, but if you just keep it in, it almost. I know whenever I was a child, I was in therapy for a while, um, and my counselor, she had the best analogy, and I use it all the fucking time. Um, or every time you don't express, you don't let it out. It's like shaking a Coke bottle. Eventually, that fucker's gonna pop. And when that fucker pops, it's not going to pop on the person that is causing it. It is not going to pop on the situation or anything that is building that pressure within you. A lot of times, it's going to pop and hurt the people that are closest to you because they're in the blast radius. So it's always good to get that stuff off your chest to remove that pressure from it.
Oh yes, yes. And like so in that notion, the pressure is building until it hits a point where it can sustain no further and can you have no more room to give and it goes ahead and it pops, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the pressure is released. And that's something that we can go ahead and use as a segue. Not necessarily in the you're not like you're repressing in your putting the you are sweeping under the rug sort of nature, right, that you were just describing,
Mm-hmm.
but more so of how can you effectively release it? How you can whether it's it's just the Coke bottle it's getting shaken up and it's just about to pop and it happens naturally, or more so of a what, I'm gonna give in, I'm gonna surrender, I'm gonna allow myself to release it in these other sorts of manners. So having hard discussions, doing things of a therapeutic nature, all that, a lot of times leads to crying, and that's our release. A lot of times it leads you to go ahead and just let it out, and whether by yourself or with someone there, going ahead and being like, it's okay, give me a pat on the back or whatever it is that you need at that moment, a shoulder to cry on, what have you. But crying is a
good way of releasing, of unburdening your mind, emptying your cup, so on. Um, yes, so expound upon that a little bit more. So,
So think about it this way. Whenever you are crying, um, we've talked about this in the metaphysics of water, how tears of different emotions actually have a different chemical compound, which I think is really fucking cool. But in terms of crying, that is a physical expression of the emotion because maybe you are too overwhelmed that the words are not enough, that you need to physically get it out of your body. And if we're using like that metaphor of water, and we know the metaphysics of water, right?
yes,
You are literally scraping that out and like expulsion through the eyeballs at that point. You are getting that shit out of your body. And I don't know about you. I fucking hate crying. I hate that shit so fucking much because it makes me feel weak. But the funny part is, every time I'm with somebody and they start crying, I'm just like, yes, get it out. That is the most beautiful thing. I love it. I just hate it for myself. I'm a fucking hypocrite on that one. I will admit that all goddamn day long.
yes.
But every time that happens, that is one of the best things because you might not have the actual words for it. It may be a feeling that you don't have the vocabulary for. Just like an infant, right? Infants don't come to us with instant knowledge of language and how to express themselves and how to ask immediately for what they need. All they have is a cry. All they have is, I'm upset and I don't know how to tell you my needs right now. And so they make a noise. It's something, but it is released nonetheless.
Oh, yes, yes. And you know what? Being that you went ahead and you just mentioned babies, let's go a bit more so in the chronological order and push it forward the timeline to when we go ahead and hit puberty, and our bodies are more so starting to get tuned for the birds and the bees. And this is another manner of releasing for going ahead and have an orgasm coming. That's another manner of release that one can have to help go ahead and empty your cup. And depending on the person, depending on exactly what action you're doing, go ahead and fill in their cup up
Oh,
as
Jesus.
well. Yes. Depending on what exactly you're doing, what hole you're entering and all of that.
Jesus
Um,
Christ, you had to. God damn it. You
yes,
had to.
yes. But all in all, that is a manner of release in of itself, and please go ahead and expound upon that.
Oh, thank you so much. I love talking
Yes.
about cum. Mm-hmm. Yummy. Okay, but with that, yes, that one is always going to bring forward release. Think about it in this way: orgasms are a huge release of energy. Everyone knows the O face, and it is not pretty. There is a reason for it. There is a massive burst of energy. Doesn't matter if it's man or woman. Um, and it is going to release also endorphins in your body. So that helps. That helps, but just recognize that sometimes that can also be a band-aid on a bullet hole. There is there is times where people can get overly dependent upon that kind of endorphin rush and they're not actually dealing with the problem. So sometimes, yes, that can be a good way to empty your cup, empty your mind, empty your balls, and be able to go on with your day. But quite frankly, I do see that one more as a quick fix, not a permanent fix.
Oh yes, but I think it depends on the nature of the type of release. In many cases, you're just going to be like, bing bang boom, not necessarily saying it's quickie,
But Bing Bang Boom, that particular release is going to let out a little bit, not a whole lot. But whether it's you're trying to attempt it or it just naturally happens, you could say that Coke bottle getting shaken up analogy once again, you might have yourself a trauma release. So please go ahead and share a bit about that, if you will.
Oh, you had to bring that one up. Okay. So, with orgasms, just like I was saying, that sometimes with empaths, especially, okay, um, whenever there is that massive burst, right? I said it was a massive burst of energy that can sometimes dredge up shit that was just stuck. And there will be times, and it's awkward as fuck, but there will be times where instant orgasm and all of a sudden you're bawling like a baby or you're just wailing, um, because all of these emotions hit you all at the same time and it is entirely overwhelming. And guess what? It's normal. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not a freak for crying afterwards. There is a lot of shit that needs to be released. That is more of an extreme. I would say that you're going to get those trauma releases on people that have a lot of trauma surrounding sex already. Anything that is of a sexual nature or romantic, that's where you're going to get that. But that is a heavy one. That is a very heavy one, and I don't suggest people go looking for it. Let it happen when it happens, and just, you know, if you're with a partner, just explain it to them afterwards of what's going on. Hopefully your partner is automatically just like there for you, or when you're by yourself, it's that cleansing release of all that pent up shit.
Oh, yes. And also, talking about, releases that relate to fluids or maybe, other material, you got to go ahead and mention excretion. You got to go ahead and mention taking a leak or taking a dump, you know, since we're talking about emptying your cup of liquid and such.
I mean, you had to say this as I have to pee. Like, god damn it. Um,
Oh, yes.
right.
Hopefully, it don't take too much longer so you can go ahead
No,
and
it's fine.
have that sort of
Shh. It's all good.
release and
Shush.
empty your cup.
No,
Yes.
actually, you know what? I'm going to pull from something that you have said, where you have created the visual, the mental image of pushing out all of the negativity out of your asshole. So, in that turn, literally shitting out your problems, shitting out your negativity. And my God, it can be effective. That's going to take, I mean, I know guys like to take a whole lot longer than females on the toilet. Um, so
Yeah, it's
anybody
our
that
throne.
a king shit a fuck mountain. Oh God. But with that, keeping that visualization and almost thinking of it as like particle condensation, like if you're just imagining like a normal human body, and it's almost like um these sediments from all areas of your body, from your mind, from your extremities, from your heart, from your shoulders, from your back, all concentrating in your colon, and you literally shitting it out. That can be a helpful visualization tool to empty your cup in a sense. Um, Hilarious. And every time you mention it, I absolutely push back. I'm not doing that, but it can be helpful for those who are willing.
Ah, yes. And also, when I do mention it, good for a laugh. But yes, so in keeping up with that liquid based theme, granted, for doing number two, it can be liquid depending on what you're in for that day and
Jesus.
what your bowels want to do. But yes,
Damn it.
um, let's go ahead and pivot a little bit more so from that. Um, well, actually, you know what? We can. The next thing we can talk about still has to do with the excretion of fluids, but it's more so of like you're doing a particular action and it's coming out as sweat, and that being various forms of exercise and all of that, whether it's walking for an extended period of time or going to the gym, going ahead and playing a sport like basketball or football, just doing some hard labor, cleaning around the house, whatever the hell it may be. Just going ahead and doing some physical activity to the point where you go ahead and you sweat. You get it out that sort of way. I'll pass the mic once again to you, and you go ahead and speak on it.
I mean, you covered it. You covered it because that gets not only energy going in yourself, which multiplies, but that is an active alchemization process for getting that nastiness out of your space.
Oh yeah, so you can kind of say it's killing two birds with one stone of emptying your cup and filling it back up again, in a
Yes,
sense.
very much so.
Yes. But in terms of the manners of health and physical health and all that sort of thing, one way that you can more so focus on emptying your cup before trying to refill it is a manner of fasting, right? Various manners of fasting, which of course you have gone ahead and spoken about
Mhm.
and covered beforehand. But there's different ways to do fasting, of course. But all in all, the purpose is to make you more so of a open receptacle to go ahead and invite good things into you, whether it's with a spiritual objective of good energy, positive energy, good vibes, man, or going ahead and like I'm gonna detoxify and cleanse my palate and my body so I can go ahead and start eating better, getting myself on track with my diet or physically or whatever the particular objective may be at that time.
Absolutely.
Yes, so please expound upon that. I know once again you covered it in your own particular
I
video about it,
did.
but just
The thing
real
is,
quick.
like, with fasting, think of it as you are literally preventing new things from coming into your body in terms of food and drink. The only thing that you're typically intaking is water, um, or whatever kind of specific fast that you're doing. But with that, doing like a water fast, it is cleansing your gut, cleansing your system, giving you a full system reset. Um, so think of it this way, when you're like really hungry, but then you go to eat and all
Yes.
of a sudden your stomach is smaller than you expected. It's like, oh my
Yes.
God, I'm starving, but I can only eat about a quarter of what I normally eat.
Yes.
That's kind of what fasting does. It takes care of the excess space. It creates that ability to only take in what we need versus all of the excess nastiness. So, fasting is a really good exercise for emptying your cup. And honestly, it gives you a lot more time to contemplate instead of being in the kitchen cooking food.
Oh yes. And while we're sticking within the physical realm, while you were talking about earlier, several minutes before, I had a good old cat, my good old feline friend pop in here and all of that. And currently I'm petting my cat. Hopefully it's not necessarily getting picked up by the mic or anything. But yes, going ahead and having animals, pets and all of that sort of thing. So not just human companions going and helping to empty your cup or unburden your stone mind, but also having animals around as well,
Oh,
or even
absolutely.
plants and all of that. You can go ahead and help alchemize, you can say, and please go ahead and speak on it because I know you can state it more so eloquently than I can.
You put entirely too much faith in me. Um, so with that, animals and the relationship that we have with them in domesticated sense is quite beautiful, even in the wild sense. Because I'm sure you'll notice, like, birds, there are times where they will just kind of hang around a certain space, or deer, any kind of animal like that. But they are like nature's scrubbers, and they take in that energy, and because they just live so entwined with it, it's not even a thing for them. They just do it. Um, Cats, they are more cognizant of it. Having a cat in your space, it's almost like having a negativity eater. You can't be unhappy when you have like a cat and their little beans all over you, right? Little toe beans. You can't be unhappy during that. But with
Well,
especially,
yes.
dogs especially, they are incredibly sensitive to it. So a dog will literally go lay its head on your lap and start absorbing that stuff. It is like unconditional love. But plants, I love plants because they not only will alchemize that energy, they will also take a hit for you, um, which I feel bad for. I really feel bad for, but
Oh
eh,
yes, and
hopefully they'll forgive
yes.
me.
Oh yes. Well, chronologically speaking, for those who have not heard us talk about it in the grounding video, I believe that will be released, right before this one. You can go back to that and listen a little bit more so about plants and trees and helping out with the grounding process, which is very, very closely tied to the notion of emptying your cup and unburdening the stone mind. It's various processes happening at once, and all that sort of thing. Just different perspectives and ways to look at how do I go ahead and improve myself and all of that. But not only just going ahead and having living beings around in some way, shape, or form, but also cleaning your space. As Jordan Peterson advises many young men nowadays, clean your damn room. And of course, obviously, many parents give that same sort of advice to their children. Um, but yes, by all means, let off on that one, Debbie, because when it comes to your own kids, I'm sure you've gone ahead and given them that direction quite often.
Yeah, I think you've heard it quite a lot. But no, in terms of that, think of any clutter that you keep on your space, like on surfaces, on your floor, anything like that. Think of it as little magnets for just excess energy because it can't flow. So even looking at feng shui, right? Feng shui is all about the flow of energy. And if you are preventing flow from happening, then it's just going to get gunked up. We don't like gunked up energy because think of sediment, like in a river. If it stops flowing, all that sediment settles to the bottom and it starts piling higher. Just like when a dam hasn't been opened for a while, the moment that floodgates open, it literally looks like the dam is taking a shit from how much silt and mud and dirt is just trapped in that area. The dirt will take over. So, keeping your space clean allows that flow of energy, allows you to actually renew yourself versus just keeping a hold of all that negativity.
Oh yes, yes, and you know, in a, I guess, taking it from the physical realm, and actually this can have physical action, but it's kind of more so intangible, more so the creative realm, just various forms of creative expression. So, in terms of physical application, you can have yourself creating a sculpture, or drawing a painting, or what have you. Or maybe you're writing out song lyrics or a short story, or whatever the case may be, making music if you're using a physical guitar instrument. Of course, there's made digital means production nowadays, and of course digital equivalents for making various things of art. visual, auditory, or otherwise. But yes, creative expression. Boom. Go.
Oh, okay. That's that's
Yes.
that's the new transition.
Yes.
Got you. Okay.
Yes.
Um no, creative expression is honestly one of the best ways to empty your cup. So think about it this way. There's a whole shit ton of sad songs, right? A whole shit ton. Why? Because accessing those emotions through any kind of art is so much easier, and you don't necessarily have to use words. There are sad songs that don't have lyrics, there are sad paintings. It doesn't have to say a single damn thing, but you feel it the moment that you see it. You know the emotion that the artist was going for, that the artist was inspired by. They had to get that out of them. Um, so there's a song, 2 a.m. I'm sure anybody who actually knows exactly what I'm talking about is like, oh my God, she's old. Yes, I know. And I still love that song. Um, there's a lyric in there
Who
that I
was it by?
love. I'm trying to remember. I can't.
Because if you're going ahead
Anna
and dating
Nalick.
yourself, okay, that's the name of the band or group or
No,
artist or
it's
whomever.
it's called Breathe, 2 a.m.
Okay.
There's a lyric in there. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. Oh, there it is. All right. 2 a.m. and I'm still awake, writing a song. If I get it all down on paper, it's no longer inside of me, threatening the life it belongs to. And I feel like I'm naked in front of a crowd because these words are my diary screaming out loud. And I know that you'll use them however you want to. Um, so that personalization, these are their experiences. This is the experience of the artist. These are the emotions and the feelings and all of the complicated shit that they're going through. And that creative expression is wonderful because, just like they were saying, it's embarrassing, but there's so many people that can actually take it and they appreciate it and they know that, hey, I'm not alone. Everyone's going through this, right?
Oh, yes. And that is the whole thing about music is whether you can say that it is, that particular song or within whatever genre or say, with more so recent modern artists that, are popular and even those that are not necessarily with us anymore in the realm of the living with XXX Tentacion, many people went ahead and felt some sort of catharsis, felt some sort of, even though he was going ahead and depressed a lot of times and expressing in his music and dumping a lot of shit, they felt catharsis and able to find release for themselves. So, to whatever extent that happened to help XXX, or maybe, he was not necessarily as able to release, right? It helped spur on other people who were in similar states to go ahead and not only feel that companionship, that camaraderie, or like I'm not alone in this, but also go ahead and cry and release that own shit for themselves. Or you could even say, um, Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers album, the double disc album that came out last year, where it was all about therapy, all about using different therapeutic methods or realizing the contradictions, the hypocrisies, the burdens, the traumas, all that sort of shit that he had within himself, and going through various means of going ahead and releasing it. And for him, he drew heavily as an inspiration from the works of Eckhart Tolle, who he also vocally contributed to the album as well, and made references to books of his, such as A New Earth and all of that, which I went ahead and actually talked about the concept of pain bodies. That's more so of a transpersonal, more so of a collective conscious
sort of manner in which we're drawing upon negative shit that fills up our cup, fills our mind with stones, and
Mhm.
that we need to unburden ourselves with, that we're kind of like either introduced and conditioned and added onto our plates when we were younger, or we just naturally come into with that as a part of our starting template
I actually want
into
to add
this
on to that.
life. Go ahead.
Because people talk about like generational burdens, generational chains, and this generation is
Yes.
all about breaking the chains and everything like that. It is though. But it is though, because we are releasing ourselves from their sins, their burdens, their hurts, their pains. We're recognizing that, hey, yeah, it happened, but this is not mine to hold. I cannot put this in my cup and still expect to lead a life that I want to lead.
Oh, yes. Um, and in that sort of sense, right? Like, individually, or individual stuff like, oh, you've had someone do something wrong to you, right? You go ahead and you have to release for yourself, and also you have the generational link, whether you want to say it's genetic, whether you want to say it's because of, oh, yes, I am a part of a particular group, like, like say, a identity of like, oh, yes, I am a particular race, or the traumas of women, or men, or whatever the hell it is, right? Different aspects that you're entangled with, energetically, quantumly entangled with, right? These aspects of your being and you as an individual, right? In some way, shape, or form, you can detect that, or you can go ahead and express those sorts of things, and you kind of got to go ahead and deal with how they go ahead and express and manifest within you, and try to go ahead and make changes for the better within yourself, so it can have that sort of ripple effect throughout the whole entire collective ego, collective conscious, both the subconscious and the superconscious of humanity as a whole, and all of that. So kind of circling back and tying it in with what we were saying before, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't pour from an empty cup, or you got to put on your own oxygen mask where you can go ahead and help others on the plane,
Mm-hmm.
and all that sort of thing. Um, but yes, all in all, I definitely recommend going ahead and listening to that video on the pain bodies for more so the transpersonal aspect of dealing with trauma and shit. But also, just go ahead and read the books of Eckhart Tolle yourself, or listen to the Kendrick Lamar album. Or there's a variety of other different expressions of dealing with your shit and releasing it, what have you. But do you have any other things that come to mind of manners or means or ways that you can go ahead and empty your cup or release your burdens, what have you?
No, I think we covered a lot in terms of that, actually.
Oh yes, and of course, in doing that and emptying your cup, you can go ahead and start working on fixing your bowl. From the Wabi-Sabi perspective of going ahead and putting gold within the cracks, and I guess what you can say is you can wear your scars with pride, if you want to phrase it a different way,
Mhm.
because they in themselves tell your story, right? Um, they are going ahead; those are the particular individualistic impressions that make you a unique individual. Because we all come in and we're soft and smooth little babes and little babies, and uh, not really all too different from one another. But as time goes on, the experiences we have, the manners of growth that we have, or maybe we don't even have, that maybe some people stay in place, right? But that those are differentiating factors that go ahead and make us more so individuals. Um, the one thing I do want to say before we happen to tie this up in a neat little bow is, so a more so spiritual, magical way. Not to say that none of those are; they definitely are. There's a layer, there's a component to it. But I guess taking more so of an active approach, and this is going to be me being a repetitious record player and all of that, and continuing to have that record repeat over and over and over again, is utilizing entities, utilizing beings to assist you in helping to empty your cup when you don't feel like you can do it yourself, or you don't have someone physically there that you can go ahead and trust, or that you are not comfortable with, or you're not at that deep level to go ahead and just let it flow, let it go, and all that. And going ahead in particular, as I usually do, making recommendations of archangels. And those two that come to mind for me being Archangel Azrael, whom there's also been another video done on the channel about particularly, but them being of the Plutonian nature of, you know, they're known as the Archangel of Death and Sleep, but they're very much there to help comfort with grief at the time of death or just whenever, when you're going through a bunch of shit, and helping you to empty your cup in that capacity, um, whenever it may be. And it could be definitely for major things, but it can be for the little things too. Very much willing to help based on my own experience, and I'm sure that through the interactions Debbie has had, she can test it as well. And actually, I'll let you go ahead and speak for yourself in that regard.
On Azrael? Oh, I like Azrael. Um, very quiet, very comforting. Azrael is never a presence that is intimidating or something where, you just feel like all pomp and circumstance. It is very much, think of a nurse that is coming in during the night shift, very quiet, but they're going to get their work done. They're trying not to wake you up, but they're trying to make sure that you are okay and everything's fine, taking care of the little needs, but very much just a comforting presence, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. So that is Azrael, but also Archangel Gabriel, who is, using the cup analogy quite a bit, is the archangel of water, or at least more so recognizable or known one in relation to water. There's various others that are, correspond with the elements of water. But yes, um, Archangel Gabriel relates with the element of water on the Kabbalistic tree of life, the spirit of Yesod, the moon, the subconscious emotions, and how the moon governs over the tides physically on Earth, and all of that sort of thing. We've covered it previously when it comes to talking about the moon or the metaphysics of water or whatever the case may be. But that's just a general summary. But yes, Archangel Gabriel can help and all of that. Help
Absolutely.
deal with, oh yes, deal with and process what is you have in your subconscious and needs to be brought to the forefront to address, to once again empty your cup. And that's where I pass it back to you, Debbie, to give your 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So as hesitant as I seem, no, I actually love Archangel Gabriel. Um, but they are very much they're going to dive into that subconscious. They are going to bring up the things that you thought were buried, that you thought were okay, that you thought that you didn't have to deal with anymore. But they're going to bring up any sediment that is left, and they are going to get it cleaned out. And you are going to start having thoughts that you thought that you would never have again. And it's just like, oh, because I didn't fully deal with it. I dealt with most of it, but I didn't fully deal with it. And they will get you to that completion point of cleaning out your subconscious. So think of your subconscious as your cup within a cup. that is your cup within a cup. So they're going to help clean that out so that the big cup, the conscious mind, the one that you're using actively, can function properly, because everything needs a good solid foundation.
Oh yes, yes, most definitely. So and when it comes to Archangel Gabriel, you know, there's a variety of means in which you can call upon them for this sort of thing. You can do it while you're awake and all of that.
you can also do it while you're dreaming, or yeah, of course, lucid dreaming. When I mentioned dreaming, right? But that's a particular practice for people to go ahead and undertake, and something I don't think we specifically talked on channel yet about. But in terms of, say, setting an intention before sleeping. So, whether you're praying or doing a particular invocation or meditation or whatever the hell it is, you know, you going ahead and saying, hey, Archangel Michael, so and so here. Um, if I need help going through and processing something, help me do it in dream form or in my state of dream and all that sort of thing,
You
whether it
said
be
Michael,
now or
but you meant
sometime in the near
Gabriel.
future. Hmm?
You said Michael, but you meant Gabriel.
Oh, yes. Well, you know what? Shit, I'm not gonna lie. Archangel Michael would be helpful in that sort of regard, uh, as well. But yes, Gabrielle. So I had a Freudian slip, but okay. This I'm gonna go ahead and give the caveat of any archangel can take on any particular task. It just they'll go about it differently, and by extension, any entity really. Just depends on their own tactics and or willingness to do so, depending on who the person is. But aside from that, yes, Archangel Gabriel can help when it comes to dreams and all of that. I think kind of like where my Freudian slip came from though
Mm-hmm.
is that I have noticed for myself that Archangel Michael for me is kind of made more so of a presence in the dream space of like going ahead and being like, all right, work on this or helping me out and all that sort of thing. Just making more so of a conscious presence and known where I can like more so easily identify it or it's more
Yeah.
so outwardly addressed. Yes. I think that's where that Freudian slip for me came from. But yes, that said, Archangel Gabriel very much have had plenty of experiences where not necessarily when it comes to dreams particularly, but in other capacities, I recognize their presence and their assistance in helping me process shit and get through it when needed and all of that. But yes, do you have anything else to add? And well, granted, before we get to that, um, I will say we could have covered many other entities and all that sort of thing, and delved into okay, who's good with that, and emptying your cup, unburning stone mind. But I think those two are adequate enough. And I'm not gonna lie, I think more so of it'll be a it'll be a process of you're gonna be going through shit and experiencing and feeling it, but depending on the type of entity that you may want to be curious about interacting with, more so risk averse for your actual like health and safety.
Oh yes. Oh
Yes.
yes, because you don't want to invite any kind of chaotic energy. This is where I'm gonna say like anyone who is, working with Loki or anything like that, and be like, not on this one. Like I appreciate
Oh
you.
yes.
I know that is your deity. You don't need to bring chaos into a chaotic space like that. Yes, it can stir up the water. Yes, it can make things, go around, but it's not necessarily flushing it out. So just make good choices. Make good
Oh
choices.
yes. Oh yes. And you know what? I think I just went ahead and like looked over what I had prepared, beforehand for
Mhm.
this, and I guess we'll leave it off on this note right here. Me scrolling to the top of the page. A quote from Lao Tzu talking about the notion of the bowl, right, and all of this. Fill your bowl to the brim, and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife, and it will blunt. So, in terms of we've been discussing emptying your cup. We've been discussing of dumping the stones from your mind to go ahead and let go of the things that are weighing you down, that are anchoring you down, and all of that. And eventually going ahead to work towards, you know, fixing your own bowl and filling in those cracks with the gold to go ahead and refill it up with clean, fresh water, in that analogy, or whatever you consider as the desirable liquid of your choosing. But, you know, if you go ahead and do it a little bit too much, then it will spill and all that sort of thing. And granted, as you stated before, empaths naturally are more so overflowing and help to go ahead and refill the cups of others. but also there are times when, you know, you can go ahead and fill your bowl up a bit too much or fill up someone else's bowl, and that's when that the Coke bottle getting shaken a bit too much, and then there's too much pressure and all of that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Everything in moderation. Everything in
Yes,
moderation. But I mean, we only have so much capacity.
yes. And I guess the last thing that comes to mind is alternatively, another way to visualize it, another analogy is not just, cups or bowls or any other containers, but us as batteries. So those phones that you have that you may be listening to this conversation on, or that laptop you have or tablet or by whatever digital means that you're going ahead and listening to this conversation through, it has a battery in it, and it can only take so much energy. And if it goes ahead and takes on too much energy, you can go ahead and weaken the battery that is the energy is contained within and all of that. So be aware and be honest with yourself about how much energy you are putting out, how much energy you're taking in, and making sure that you're at a proper balanced level and making sure that you're doing self care, making sure that you know, you are in the best condition possible, not only for your own sake, but to help others as well. And are you going to do it perfectly? Probably fucking not. But all in all, you can take the effort to make just that slight enough improvement where you have a noticeable difference. And that's what counts. That's what matters.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes a while to get this perfected, and it takes a while to first get started. So be kind to yourself. Consider all of the methods that we've said, and of course, consider anything that pops into your mind. I always like to trust intuition with that one. Just as long as it's not destructive to yourself or others. Um, but I hope that you guys are able to find some healing with this one. Healing is good.
Yes. Yes. Especially considering that what was it that you were going ahead and saying astrologically the period at this time of recording and will be soon released afterward. What period are we in astrologically in relation to a particular distant planet that's now called dwarf planet?
Oh yeah, Pluto just went retrograde, but it does every year. Pluto goes retrograde every year, but it's retrograde inside of Capricorn, Mr.
Yes.
Capricorn. So
Oh yes.
good luck with that.
But yes, and you mentioning that just the general gist, because we're not really going to delve too much into astrology with this one and all of that before we've even covered it generally speaking. But all in all, you say that it's a time of, oh, people got to go ahead and process their shit a bit
Oh
more.
yes. So retrogrades are always going to be a time where, hey, this is a time to sit your ass down. It is not a time for action. It is a time to contemplate, to shed layers, to actually get to the core of what the problem is, to prevent it from happening again. It is always going to be a time of, I am learning the lesson now because it will keep repeating until I do.
Oh yes, and you know what? I keep saying, oh, we're about to go ahead and hit this last door thing and all that, right? But the one thing on my pre-written outline that we have yet to address is let me provide a method in which you can go ahead and all that outside noise, all that negative shit that's coming in, and all of that. Here's one additional method that we haven't really spoken all too much about, but it can be helpful in helping to stop the outside noise, adding additional stones to your mind, or filling up your cup, whatever visualization or analogy you want to have. And, this in of itself is coming from Bill Donahue, who is more so taking an esoteric metaphysical approach to Judeo Christian literature and all of that, and taking like new agey sort of stuff and like that particular sort of perception interpretation of it and weaving in. It's like, okay, this makes sense in a practical scientific manner. And I'm going to say this very crudely in terms of how he himself worded it. This very crude summarization, but you can check out hiddenmeanings.com, and that is where he has a lot of his sort of stuff written out in a very old internet sort of style. And there's also a particular video which I also have linked as well about him speaking about ohm and ohm resistance, um, the electrical resistance. So in that sort of nature, right? Like he attributes the the outside noise that comes in and floods our brain with a bunch of shit, and those truth thoughts, all that. He attributes that in the personification, the entity, the aspect of Samael, Archangel Samael, from Judaism, right? And in that sort of sense, they're more so Martian in nature, planetarily speaking, but they're very much aggressive. They're very much like go, 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 and it can be a bit oppressive. They're seen as the opposer, right? In that sort of manner, but in the actual Kabbalistic sort of viewpoint, they actively took that role on purpose. That it was like, hey, look, God, I'm going to go ahead and take this role because it's necessary, it's needed, and there has to be a counterbalance. There has to be this sort of thing for people to grow and all of that. A willing devil, you can say. But yes, so Samael is the opposer, and that frequency comes in and gives us our intrusive thoughts, goes ahead and gives us all this sort of shit, and we can actually go ahead and actively take on the approach of stopping that coming in, right? So the way that O'Donohue suggests, or one of the ways he suggests that you can do this, is by using Om, the Om chant. That is very much of a Eastern nature. Excuse me, but he once again likens it to the Ohm electrical resistance, what have you, um, and all of that. Once again, he will speak more so eloquently about that in the video that I will provide. But all in all, and you may be hearing a cat's in the background trying to get my attention. Um, Quiet up until this point now. But yes, all in all. Yep, you guys can hear that, right? As soon as I'm trying to go ahead and address outside noise coming in, I have outside noise coming in and trying to, interrupt and all that sort of thing, even though if it is a cute distraction. But yes, so going ahead and you can hum or chant Om continually, and go ahead and take your pointer fingers and put it into your ears, your ear holes, and go ahead and just do that for however long you can and all that sort of thing. And you in of yourself are going ahead and flooding your own mind, your own brain with your own noise, right? Your own desired noise to put up the resistance, to drown out the outside noise, what have you. And you want to know who the personification of Om is within Hinduism and Buddhism? That is going to be Lord Ganesha. That is going to be the elephant god Ganesha. Who I'm gonna say shout out to Ganesha because have called upon them and worked with them, and a pretty decent benevolent fellow. Not all necessarily sunshines and roses, but definitely like, oh yes, I'm very willing to help. They're seen as more so neutral, but Debbie, you can go ahead and speak on the feeling you get from Ganesha, what
Oh, well,
have
yeah.
you.
No, I actually keep a Ganesha statue on my desk, and a little, I call it a mini Neshi in my wallet because I'm homies with Ganesha. It's fine.
Little
Um,
pocket Neshi.
Pocket Neshi, yes. But no, Ganesha has always come across as warm and kind and very open and accepting. And as long as you're willing to do the work, he's willing to assist you with it. So I love Ganesha, honestly.
Oh yes. But yes, you can go ahead and I guess we can add this to the whole list of entities, recommended entities, that you can add that to the list of the couple other archangels and just that particular practice. Once again,
of saying Om for however long you can manage or you desire to, and then you can go ahead and put your fingers into your ear holes while doing so, and that being a way to help clear your mind and get rid of that static and that noise. But yes, with that having been said, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up now, unless you have any additional comments to make.
No, I mean I've tried the ohm and it creates a nice buzzing in the brain and kind of filters everything out. So I think it's a extremely valid practice. But I have nothing else to add.
All right, so with that, this has been both Twisted and Devi, and hopefully you guys have retained something from this, have gained something, and can use something to help empty your cup, unburden the stone mind, fix your bowl, and just generally, cleanse out you in various capacities and fill you back up again. All that. So, yes, that has been us here at the Open Sorcery. Stay frosty, neguses, and peace.
Y'all have a great night.